All right, welcome everyone. Thanks so much for coming by. We're going to have a really fun time creating this landscape painting. We have a lake and some beautiful hills here, some distant mountains, some trees, some pine trees, beautiful clouds, those wispy clouds, kind of the stormy clouds too, with the really dark shadows underneath them. This is going to be a glazing technique painting. We're going to have so much fun doing it. I'm going to explain to you all the details of how to get everything done. We'll go step by step as we go. I'll have all my colors here on my palette out so you can see everything we're using. We're using more of a limited palette though here, so no need to worry. We're only going to use about 5 or 6 colors, maybe, or 7 at most. I'll show you all those. We'll mix them all here on the palette. As we go, we're going to mix them up first before we even start, so that when we're starting out our glazing painting, we're going to have that first fun wash of just the water on the paper first, and then our sky colors with the clouds and some of our water. And so you're going to have a really fun time painting this. Let's get started. Again, thanks for coming by. If you're brand new here, you're at the right place at the right time. We're always creating new watercolor paintings here, so whether it's paintings like landscapes, we do seascapes, oceans, beaches, we do everything. We'll do mountain scenes, flowers, a little bit of figure painting once in a while, maybe portraits, a couple portrait paintings here and there mixed in, but mostly a lot of just that fun watercolor classic paintings that all watercolor artists love throughout history, the landscapes, the seascapes, the boats, the flowers, all those great things. Let's have fun, enjoy. Again, thanks for coming by, and especially too if you've been with me for a while or a long time. Even I know many of you that follow me for many years now. Thank you so much. You're all fantastic, and we're just going to keep having fun and enjoying ourselves here and keep growing and learning in watercolor. And again, I'm not going to hide anything. I'll show you everything I know here on this video, and I'll keep doing that week after week, month after month, and year after year. So let's get set, and we'll get started in just a second. All right, so we're moving right along here, and we're going to just get started with the drawing portion now. Usually it's good to, we're just going to improvise here. We're going to do a beautiful summer scene, a lake with some green grass and green trees and some beautiful clouds, nice white luminous clouds with some shadow colors underneath the clouds. It's going to be a lot of fun to do this, and I know a lot of you are going to really just really enjoy this. It's in the United States, in the Northeast where I live. It's summer. It's getting towards summertime now. We're in the spring, and everyone just looks forward to that beautiful time of summer and the warm weather, and just things are a little more laid back and relaxed. So we're going to kind of have that feeling when we're doing our painting here. So I hope everyone's going to get into that kind of mode and feeling of summer approaching. It's a little bit more relaxed. Everyone just seems to be in a better mood. It's more comforting with the warm heat and the sunlight, and everyone I think enjoys it for the most part. So let's enjoy ourselves here doing this painting. Let's not get stressed over it. And we're going to do something really simple. We're just going to, again, I'm going to improv on this. I just want to create something real simple we can all do, whether you just are starting out as a beginner, or if you've been painting for a while, or even if you're an old grizzled pro. No worries. Jump in, grab your brushes, your paints, your paper, and just work right along with us here. We're not going to do anything. It's not rocket science. We're just going to, basically, first thing we'll do is we'll get our, I guess we'll call it like our horizon line for our land and our lake. So we're going to make our lake and our land about a quarter of the way up the page, I think would be fine. So if you even wanted to take one step back, and just, we can take a Sharpie marker or even a pencil. Let me see if I have a pencil. All right, I have this is a soft lead pencil, so I can make some good dark lines on this. So you could just take your paper and you could measure it if you want, or you can do it by eye, whatever you feel familiar with and or what you're more comfortable with. I've been working in art for many years, and so for me, I can kind of divide a paper somewhat in half, pretty close, within maybe a 1/4 inch or 1/8 of an inch. But if you need the ruler, no problem, and if you can get it within a 1/4 of an inch or so, you can still do it by eye. You kind of just look at the paper, the rectangle here, and you say to yourself, where's about halfway? And you can kind of just feel it. You can feel the halfway point's about there. And if you put a hash mark at that halfway point, then you can come down here and say, well, let's see what it's a 1/4 of the way. So 1/4 of the way is just simply going down toward the bottom, or from the bottom up to the halfway point, you know, quarter of the paper is you know, halfway between these 2 points here. So we could make another hash mark there and say, okay, where's the halfway point between these two? And I would say it's about there. Now we'll see. I'll try to see how well I did by saying that I'm pretty accurate with my eye. Let's see what we have here. So this is 7.5 inches right now, the opening, the window, and 7.5, 3.5, and 3.5 is 7. So 3.5 and 3.5 is 7, and then we have to go another ½ inch, so we got to go another quarter. So I'm about close. There we go. So this is the actual perfect halfway point, exact. And I'm a little bit high on that mark, but it's pretty close. You know, that's fine. If you can, even if you're like anywhere between here and here, that's good. And then let's see how I did between these 2 points using my old original mark. 4 inches. So 2. Yeah, I was pretty much right on the money there. Okay, so we're good. Quarter of a way, or you can measure again. So, like I said, you can make it more simple. Say like you know, let's say this is 7 inches high, the paper. 3.5 is your halfway point, and then we'll go this way. We're not really going to actually divide anything this way, so we don't really have to divide the paper in any kind of way this way with any kind of vertical lines. We're just interested in getting that quarter of the way up the sheet of paper to get us our lake and our shoreline, and that's all. So we can just take this mark that we said was the quarter point, which was pretty accurate by eye, 2 inches, and we come over here. So using a ruler is helpful. Actually, a lot of times when you're creating your painting, you can always have your ruler on standby, just if you need to measure a few things or hash out a few things so that you can kind of, you know, angles or things, or, you know, measuring some things to get the proper scale of the way things are looking. But this is fine. So now we have our quarter mark going from the bottom up 1/4, and we'll put a light line across here. I'll do it a little darker, but at home you just want to make a very light line. I'll go a little darker so you can see it on the camera here, on the video camera. All right, so there we have it, the quarter mark. Then from there, let's just, we'll make, I think what we'll do is we'll make the first hill about here. And if we measured that, that's about 1/2 inch. So about 1/2 inch of hill here, and we're just going to have it slowly, softly, you know, go across the page with a little bit of some, you know, shapes to it across, doing a little bit of the swales here and there, up and down, but nothing. We don't want to really create another straight line with a ruler at this point. I think we're good. We have the water line here. This will be the lake here. This will be the water line. And then this will be the shore here, the shoreline or the water line, one and the same. And then we have our hill over here. This is the first part of the our composition. So that's going to be the grass, some nice beautiful green grass here we'll make. And then on top of this hill, we're going to make another. Up here, we're going to make another bit of. Let's come up here and make a tree. Over here on this side. Make a tree over here. Like this. So I'm just loosely, again, taking my pencil and making some tree shapes over here. And then maybe there's some other trees over here. Like that. And then maybe once we have some of these hills and these trees being painted in, then we can do more improvisation with some darker trees, maybe some pine trees. We'll get more into it. But when we first start out this painting, let's just get the general idea of the shoreline and the waterline here. Here's our lake in the very bottom of the painting, the first quarter. Then as we go up, we're going to have that first bit of land where the shoreline is. Then as we go back, we should have another few steps going back with some light and shadow, and some trees. So you can make a few more lines if you want, just to kind of make some layers to it so that you're feeling like you're having some layers as you go back, right? That's all I'm doing. And then again, some trees over here, maybe like a larger tree over here, some other darker middle tone trees on over here, and then that should be good. And then the next thing we're going to do is create a nice cloud shape. So maybe we'll make a cloud shape, a larger cloud shape over here, sort of coming out of the, from the side of the paper like this, and then coming into the, like that. Maybe that would look good. Or maybe I think we should maybe go the, let's do this. I think it's going to be better if I just lift this, that first line up. I think we're going to go with maybe some cloud, the larger cloud shape right about here, and then come up and kind of go out of the paper, and then another darker. So we're going to make some darker shadow shapes over here where the clouds are. Like this. And over here is going to be more blue sky. So if you can imagine a little bit of the darker shading over here for the clouds, and then more of the blue sky over here. And that's all we have to do, and then we're actually finished. You're complete with your sketch. So again, you're just remembering, simple enough, water here, the first quarter going up from the bottom. Then your next, almost to the halfway point, you're going to be putting in a few different hills as you're going back, some parallel lines across your page. And then right up close to the halfway point, you'll put in maybe your darker tree line in the back. So your tree line is going to be your darker trees, some pine trees. Maybe we'll do a few pine trees over here. Maybe we'll just kind of sketch one in, or one of these, or two, like this. Maybe there's a few pine trees over here, like this, like that. And this is going to be a little darker over here, like this. And that should be about it. So we're going to keep it simple. We're not going to get too involved in tons of detail. And that'll be it. That's going to be our sketch. And then what we're going to do now when we come back is I'll just really quickly, go over the palette I'm using here. It's a little different than my normal palette, but I wanted to show you that you can actually purchase different palettes that suit your needs. So maybe sometimes you're going to feel a little bit limited by a smaller palette like I use on my videos most times. I'm usually using the smaller Schmincke palette, but there's some really nice size palettes like this that are larger. You'll have larger mixing areas, and they even make a lot larger palettes than this, actually. And we'll go over that in another video in the future, in the near future. I'll go over some more palette options for everybody so that you have lots of options for your palettes, right? And other than that, we're all set. We'll just come back. We'll take a quick break, come back, and we'll start painting. All right, we're going to start painting. I'll get a brush that's going to be a nice size for this painting. I think I'll start off with maybe I think this is a number 10 round brush, a Da Vinci Maestro round brush, fresh clean water. I spritzed my paints here about half an hour before we started, and then I keep my my spritzer bottle nearby here, and I'll just keep spritzing this as I need to, keep the paints moist. And I think the way we're going to approach this painting is I think I'll even go with a larger brush. I think this is a number 14 Da Vinci Maestro. And what I'll do is we'll wet the whole paper. So this is just a Kolinsky Sable Natural Hair, a watercolor brush. And then what I'll do is we'll take fresh, clean water, crystal clear water, and we'll wet the paper. We're going to do the glazing technique. You've heard me mention this many times on my channel, and if it's your first time here, welcome. Thanks for coming by if it's your first time here on my channel, and maybe if you're really new to watercolor too, thanks for joining along and maybe making a start with watercolor. It's such a fun medium, and you'll have such a great time. You'll love it. And it's just a matter of sticking with us here week by week. You'll pick up something every time you watch new videos. You'll have fun. We explain everything we do here. I kind of go over all my gear constantly, my papers, my colors I use, all these different things. So you'll always be getting a lot of information, and then after a while you'll just absorb all that information as you go, and it'll become easier and easier for you to paint watercolors. So thank you. And also too, down below in the comment section, there's all kinds of supplies, art supplies, if you need to pick up a few things, or I have a book there. You can check out my book. I have a video of my book, a quick 2-minute video, so you can look through my book, check out. I got everything in my book that you could ever need. Warm-up exercises, all the colors I use, my personal papers and pencils I use, over 65 paintings in my book, so you'll be able to really enjoy that book for years to come. You can paint all the paintings in my book and copy them and work on them. So we're going to get started again using the glazing technique, and this is what I cover in my book in great detail, is the 2 main techniques most watercolor artists will use, which is one, the glazing technique, which is just getting a whole bunch of water on the paper first with washes of watercolor, and then letting it dry and coming back over with darker colors on top. And then the alla prima method I cover again in great detail in my book, and that's more or less starting in one place in your painting and just painting from there, one place, and start and go from there and paint the whole painting through. So 2 different methods and techniques with watercolor. You can use them both separately, you can use them both together, mix and match them. But the main thing is to get used to each one kind of individually first, and then once you have the hang of each one of them separately, then you can, delve into using them both at the same time as you wish. You'll actually just normally do that once you learn both techniques. All right, so we just wet the paper down. We'll let that sit for a second or two. Let the water kind of soak into the paper a little bit, and while that is going on, the water is kind of settling into the paper, getting the paper nice and moist, and that's what we want. We want to have a nice wet surface to work on. Then we're going to come over here while that's going on. We're going to start mixing our colors. Why not? Let's get ahead of things. Let's start mixing our colors. I'm going to use cobalt blue, some cerulean blue, some French ultramarine blue. So I'm going to use like 3 blues here. French ultramarine blue, a little bit darker, right? Cobalt blue, a little bit of a medium blue, not too dark, not too light, and then cerulean, a little bit of a lighter blue. So we have these 3 blues working for us. That'll make a nice bit of a combination. Then what we do also is we take just a touch of burnt umber, which is like basically a brown, and we put a touch of that into the blue, and just sort of not mix it around, just put it in there a little bit, just to kind of tone down the blue a little tiny bit. And then from there we will take a little more of the brown and blue, and maybe even a little bit of the red over here. So there was some red, alizarin crimson. We'll make a little bit of a grayish color with the blues, the brown, and then a touch of the alizarin crimson. And now you see we have a little bit of a nice grayish purple like that. That's going to be for the clouds, the underside of the clouds, where you have that kind of shadowing effect. Maybe even a touch of orange there in that. Okay. And then why not? We better put a little bit of green in there. We're going to be painting lots of greens, all the grass and trees and things. Let's put a touch of green in both the sky and the shadow colors. But just a little bit, not that much. Barely imperceptible, but it should be there. And let's get started. Since we have our blue for our sky color, now you could look at your sky color. It's usually going to be darker up at the top of the sky, like that. Let the paint do all the work for you. Don't try not to overwork your paints when you're doing your skies. Just put the water and paint, your paint mixture that we here, just put it onto the paper and let it mix and work around and kind of diffuse onto your paper. And it's like the less work you do, the better it looks. And then if you have to, you have a little tissue or paper towel on hand if you see anything flowing down too much, if you see any puddles, big puddles, blot up a little bit of too much puddling if you see that happening. You just want to keep it a nice even consistency. You don't want to have any huge puddles forming anywhere of water. And If you see any other puddles maybe around, you just lift those up a little bit, blot them up. Maybe I'll blot up some of the water I see over here on the tape. And don't be afraid, get some more paper towels or tissues. After a while they get loaded up with the water you're lifting up, and then it doesn't pick up as much. So you pick up another bit of fresh paper towel or tissue and go around. And then again, if you see anything you want to lift up, like any puddles, you can do that. I'll rinse off my brush again. Then maybe I will take a little bit of that, just the cobalt blue, like this. And I'll just do a little bit of the brush moving around, kind of like the clouds. The clouds are being carried by the winds. So that's how you want your brush to sort of be, like your brush is being carried by the wind. If you can imagine your brush is in a windstorm and it's blowing, your brush is blowing across your canvas or your paper. That's kind of the effect you would like to have if you can. You could take that blue and work it on down into the water like this. So you can see I'm taking that blue color and just doing a little bit of the first glazing. We're having fun here most of all. Okay. Then some of that grayish color. Look how good that looks. And again, not overworking this. Put your little bit of that gray color underneath the bottom of your clouds here, like that. Maybe a little more up here. So maybe that gray bit of clouds up here. And again, the more freer and fun you make your clouds, the better they're going to look. And that is it. I'm leaving that the way it is. I'm not going to do any more. Again, if you can just do less, that will be more. It'll look better. Less is more when you're doing your skies. And then I'll just lift up a little bit maybe, blot up a few little puddles I see, or if I want to soften out an area, you can soften out some areas like this. But I wouldn't do that too much. Let the watercolor do the work again, and you'll be surprised. Once it dries, it's going to look so good because you've left it to just do its own thing. Because watercolor is something where that's the fun of watercolor. And you will learn that as you go. If you're sticking here on my channel and working with me, every week we get together, you'll be learning how watercolor can do wonderful things just on its own. You don't even have to work that hard to get it to look good. It actually has its own like mind in essence. So that's all you have to do. Let's leave that the way it is. And now we have a beautiful sky all set. We're not going to do anything more to the sky. We have the water in. We'll put a little more detail to the water a little bit. We'll see that in a few minutes or so, in 5 or 10 minutes as we go. But right now we have to let this all dry 100%. So there's two ways you can let this dry. One is let it dry naturally for like 2 or 3 hours. You want to see all of those buckles in the paper completely go flat again. So your paper is going to want to be flat on your table wherever you're working, your working surface. If you've got your paper taped down to a working board, or you might have a sketchbook, let that paper become flat again and dry with all the water basically evaporated out of the paper, and that should be perfect. Or you could use a blow dryer. You could take a blow dryer and for 5 minutes carefully just lightly take your time and blow dry your paper until you see it become flat again, and that's when you'll go back in and do the rest of the painting. All right, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to use the blow dryer, but I won't make all the noise and everything on this, on the video here. I don't want to be making a whole bunch of noise. You're going to get frustrated by listening to a blow dryer, and all that kind of stuff. So don't worry about it. I'm going to do that off camera, and when I come back, this will be completely dry and we'll be all ready to go. All right, so I just did I used the blow dryer to dry off the first glazing we did. Again, the glazing method is really fun, really enjoyable, and you can get some incredible effects on your watercolor washes and your paintings with that. So I encourage everyone to really work on those the glazing technique paintings when you can. And then you're also going to definitely want to work it with alla prima method. And But it did take me a while to blow dry this, actually. Probably about 15 minutes I was with my blow dryer on high heat, and it finally got to the point now where it's still got a little bit of buckling to the paper, but very, very little bit, but it's dry to the touch. That's the main thing. When you come back to do your second glazing over the top and your finishing touches, that's what you're looking for. The paper has to be completely dry to the touch. You can start off just a little bit, you touch here and there, and then as you press it, and then you say, oh wow, yeah, it's 100%, really it's dry, like almost 95%. So it's not damp at all, it's really dry to the touch. That's what you have to have. Once you get this method perfected, then you can go back in and paint while it's still damp, your paper. So that's like the ultimate level you want to get to. That would be like your goal. As a watercolor artist using the glazing technique, your goal is to first, when you use the glazing technique, just learn the basic principle of getting the first light wash on and then letting it dry 100%, and then going back in and putting your secondary and your last finishing touch washes on top of the paper, on top of your dry first wash. Then as you're working with it for a while, and you're getting used to that, then you can start actually going in and starting a little bit ahead of time while the paper's a little bit damp even, to start putting in maybe your secondary washes and begin those. And when you do that, it actually does make some really nice diffused washes where it kind of mingles and mixes with the other washes underneath, giving like a really nice feel to the painting. So that's a kind of like a goal to shoot for with watercolors when you're using the glazing method. So again, we're going to get started again, and I guess I will go now to the number, I'll use this number 8. This is again a round brush, Da Vinci Maestro round brush. This is actually natural hair brush, Kolinsky hairs. And then what I'll do is, I'm just going to actually take a paper towel and then dip it into the water bucket, my water container. And I do want to kind of just lift up the colors that we mixed already in the beginning, and start with a fresh, clean palette. So that's what I'm going to do now. Doesn't have to be perfect, just I want to get most of the paint up like that, and that should be fine. Okay, now I'll change my water. In my water bucket, you can kind of see it's pretty murky looking there. So I'll empty that out in my secondary water bucket. My large secondary water bucket I have by my table here, so I can just empty my water as I need it and fill up my bucket as many times as I want to while I'm painting. And now I've got the fresh, clean water. And then what I'll do is we'll start mixing our paint for the green landforms and the green trees. And let's start out with some sap green here, cadmium lemon yellow. I want to make a nice fresh looking yellow. Cadmium lemon yellow is perfect for that. Okay, so between those two greens, cadmium lemon yellow mixed into my sap green, that gives us a really beautiful, it'll be a beautiful luminescent green. That's going to really look good. And what we'll do is we'll just put that right across the paper, and it's that simple. I just take my brush, touch it down, and just bring it right across like this. You can even go up into this area here where these hills are. You could take some more yellow, make it even lighter in some areas if you want to. And again, it's okay if you go up into these areas here, but we're going to make these trees darker up here. And again, this is what we're going to do. We're going to build up some layers of hills here and the embankment along the water to give it some good depth, a feeling of depth. So I'll go right across here like that, right along that pencil line there that we created. You could put a piece of artist tape, or the same tape here. I'm using frog tape for around the borders. This is really good. This is the best frog tape you can get. That's called advanced frog tape, and it's really fantastic. It will not rip your paper up or tear up your paper when you go to pull it off, and it's just the perfect tape, really. There's lots of tons of good tapes out there, so I'm just telling you kind of what I use, that's all. And you can kind of see now that we've got these hills across really looking good. And then these will dry kind of quickly because we're not using a ton of water. You can kind of see we just added an average amount of water, a fair amount of water, to get started with our light green, which was the cadmium lemon yellow, and a little bit of the sap green, like that. And that's all we needed to do for that. And then as this is already drying, we don't have to worry. We're already going to be moving on to our next bit of green, which is going to be sap green, a little bit of burnt umber, and maybe a little bit of French ultramarine blue. And I think we can get a good, and then a little more sap green. We want to get a good dark green at this point. And then we also want to have that dark green have some variation to it, so a little bit of brown in that darker green that we just created, a little bit of brown. Let's add a tiny bit of red in there, some of the alizarin crimson, and a little bit of orange maybe over here. In there you can kind of see we've got a nice mixtures, some really good mixtures of colors. Maybe a little bit of cobalt blue here. Okay, now we'll start to do, maybe I'll start over, I start on the left. I'm a right-handed painter, so always remember when you're painting these type of paintings, any painting actually, when you're, working your paintings, if you're left-handed, you'll be starting, a lot of times it's a lot easier if you just start your washes and your painting on the left side, on the right side over here, and work to your left like this if you're left-handed. If you're right-handed, then you're going to start over here and work your way this way. And that's kind of better because this way, as you're working this way, you won't be leaning into your paint. Because what happens is if you're right-handed like this, and then you come over here and you put paint over here, and then you go to paint over here, you might lean down onto that paper and lean your hand into the paint. And I've done that so many times, I've just now kind of so used to just working left to right that I don't have that problem anymore, really. So now we're going to just start going in and doing our darker tree forms and bushes and things. I might do a couple little splashes here, like this, a couple splashes, bits, just tiny bits. And I think if we come up with a nice little bit of shapes of bushes and trees back here, we'll be fine. We're going to have some pine trees over here. These three over here, we'll do some pine trees. Leave some light paper so that you can kind of like feel like you can walk through the scene and walk beyond. So leaving some of that light green is really good. And then I rinse off my brush. And I often mention this when I'm working. I'll take my brush, rinse off the paint, dry off the water after I rinse my brush off on a paper towel or tissue or sponge until it's just damp. And then you can come back in here and pick up some more paint. And this way you can you won't get too much flooding of water on your paper, because that can really cause problems if you have too much water on your brush. So I always say if you keep a tissue all the time in your hand, and once you're rinsing off your brush, you just take a little bit of water off, you'll be fine. Okay, so I'm going to do a little more work over here with some darker bushes and trees. Like this. So now you can just see we're just going with this darker second, we're doing our second glazing, our second wash over the top of that first light wash. So you wouldn't be putting light washes on at this point. Once that paper is all dry after your first light wash, then all your washes from there on out are really going to be just your darker washes like this, as you can see. So I'm not using much water at all. I'm just going right in, straight in, getting my paint. Same colors, burnt umber for a little bit of that brownish green, French ultramarine blue with sap green for that really nice rich dark green. And then we still have this green up here, the lighter green. If we want to use some of that, we can mix more of that too. But I think we have quite a bit of good color out here. A little bit of the red, mix in that too. Kind of like a violet color. And we're just going to keep working along here. There we go. Some really nice darker darks here. Like that. Then you can go with something lighter if you want. Like this. Couple of wispy bits of branches and tree leaves up here like that. Now's a good time. I'll take my brush, add a little bit of extra water up here just for the splashing technique up there like that. Okay, I'll do a couple splashes here and there across. Then I'll again rinse off my brush, dry off the water off the brush, and come over here and pick up some more of that dark paint. And we'll do that. I'll do a couple more splashes to kind of get that feeling of some leaf forms and things. All right, and then next we'll do a few, maybe we'll do a couple of tree shapes like this, maybe one or two like that. It's kind of nice to mix up some different shapes. Oh yeah, let's get I'll use a smaller Da Vinci Maestro travel brush. This is synthetic actually. This comes with the Schmincke palette. The Schmincke watercolor palette. You probably see most of my videos. I always have the Schmincke palette with the owl on it. This comes with it. It's the Da Vinci number 5 travel brush, and it's synthetic brush, which is really good. It doesn't hold too much water, so you can get some really good fine details, and it won't tend to flood out your details where you lose your details when you're creating your details on your, like that. So see how you can get a nice bit of details there. A couple of finger taps. And again, if I do a couple of finger taps, that gives me more variation in this painting. And then again, we're going to do a few of those pine trees like this. A couple of just pine trees, kind of the branches on the pine trees are kind of a lot of times level like this, like straight across, kind of like that. And then the ones at the tops, maybe the top branches are more angled upwards like this. But usually and there's little bits of, so I'm just going to, talking to myself basically, or talking out loud. And then here, this is another bit of a pine tree here. And we'll just do this like that. A couple of interesting shapes. That looks pretty good. Okay, so you can see adding these little bits of detail now with the smaller brush. This is a number 5 again, round brush, nice good point on there. And then we have some good details. I add maybe a little bit of water and so to make splashes I have to maybe add a little more water to the paint, but I will do a little more splashing over here like this, like that, and a few more over here like that. And I feel pretty good. I think that looks good. And then what we will do is we'll add a little more French ultramarine blue again, burnt umber, sap green, maybe a little bit of the lemony yellow. The only thing is the cadmium yellow is quite opaque. If you can see that, when you put some cadmium yellow into your sap green, which is more transparent watercolor, so it's more transparent. I guess what I mean by that is, like, sometimes you'll have a paint color like sap green is more transparent. You can see through it. It's very, like, it's not too thick, and you know, you can see it's very light. So when you put it on the paper, you can almost see through it. It's got that luminescence to it. Whereas if you put in some of the cadmium lemon yellow, that will make it a little more opaque looking, less transparent. So just an idea when you're painting. You're going to kind of always keep that in mind, what your paints are doing, if they're opaque or if they're transparent. For some washes that you might want to have more of a transparent look to them, maybe sometimes you're going to want an opaque color. And you can kind of learn your colors as you go. And it's, again, a learning process. Don't ever get overwhelmed with watercolor. Watercolor takes years and years and years to really perfect and get really good at. But there's no reason why when you're just starting out you can't have good results. So that's the thing about watercolor, which is actually fun. You can make some really great paintings and fun paintings right from the start. But as you go, you'll keep refining all your knowledge. And it'll make your paintings all the better every time you're just learning something new, watching a video, you're hearing us talking about colors, color theory, transparency of paints, all these different things. You'll pick other stuff up on books, you know. So again, it's a long journey. Enjoy the fun of it all, and don't get stressed. Most of all, just have fun mostly. But don't shy away from learning new things by just, you know, writing down a few notes here and there, doing other research and things like this, and you'll be fine. All right, let's see. Let's get those sap green. Yes, we're going to do some sap green and then some French ultramarine blue. French ultramarine blue, brown, and sap green. Thick, though. Thick paint, no water. Like that. And that's what we're going to do along the water and also here. Maybe a couple spots. We make it darker, and that looks good. And then we'll make a couple dark spots along here, the bank. So along the bank, we're going to have some darks. We'll have some more bushes over here. Like that. So you're going to have some bits of color going up like this, maybe. Put some of that along the, you'll be putting in some reflections now in the water here where these are, these bushes along the water, just like that. You just put a little bit of indications of some of the, and I wouldn't get too fancy with it, just kind of get in some color underneath it like it is above, same color basically, and leave a little bit of white paper in between the two. That gives you your feeling of the shoreline. And this is really looking fine here. Again, some more. And again, my reflections in the water. I apologize if I didn't mention that. All I'm really doing is reflecting down into the water what's above. So if I have a bush up here, I'll put a little bit of a green bit of color down in the water. But it doesn't have to be, it's better to do it messy in the water like this, like kind of haphazard, you know, when you're working like this. Like for your water reflections, you don't want it to be, you want it to be like wavy looking and broken up a little bit like that. And that looks pretty good. Now, what else are we going to do? We'll add some more details to the water. So now I'll go back to my number 8, Da Vinci Maestro. I think I will change out the water now because my water is, again, you can see the water is getting a little bit murky looking. Always change out your water off and you'll never have a problem if you do it that way. So I'll put a new water in my bucket here. We'll take another break. And by taking breaks, you can get a rest. You feel a little more relaxed when you come back and start painting again. I tend to get a little bit, fatigued after maybe 20 minutes or so, 15, 20 minutes. I feel like I need a break just to kind of relax. So, but everyone's different. Some of you may feel like, wow, I can paint like an hour straight and I don't need a break. That's fine too. All the power to you. You paint the way you want to. You're the artist. You decide you're you decide, when your breaks are going to be, that you'll need to take a rest or something like that, or to get like a drink of water or something, or whatever you want to do. But again, I usually, my 15, 20 minutes I usually work, and then I take a quick break for 5 or 10 minutes, and then I come back. So that's what I'm going to do. Take a quick break, come back. We'll work on the rest of the water, and I think that's all we need to do is finish up the water here, and we'll have a completed painting, and I hope you're having a fun time. This is great, and again, I always mention, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. This way you're kind of in contact with us at all times. You'll always, see the new videos on YouTube when you open up YouTube. When you subscribe, all that does is just, the next time you open up YouTube, you'll see a little thing on the side of your screen saying, oh, Chris made a new video. And then you'll just know, oh yeah, let's watch that. And then you'll grab your brushes and paints and everything and join along. And or you could say, oh, I'm gonna write that down on a notepad, and I'm gonna go, in a few days, I'm gonna come back and watch that video. And this way, you keep up with us here, you keep working with us, and you're always getting better at your watercolors, and you're having a fun time the whole way through. Okay. All right, we'll come back in a minute and we'll get finishing up on this painting, which is getting in some more details on the water, and then we'll be ready to peel up the tape and see the finished product. Okay, so now we're finishing up again with the water, and this is really like the home stretch. I changed out my water to make sure I have fresh, clean water now, because we're working in a lighter section here. This is kind of very light. As you can see, the paper, the wash, this is the original first glazing that we did, the first wash, the really light wash. So that's here, that's been dry for a long time, and now we're going to actually go over the top of it with more warmer and cooler colors that are a little darker in tonal value. But still, we want to kind of make sure we, again, empty our water bucket here before we do the water section. I'll use a bigger brush here, the 14 that we used before, round brush. And what I'll do is I'll take my watercolor brush, I'll load it up with water, and I'll dry off just a little bit on a paper towel some of the water from the brush, so I don't have a ton of, just a good damp brush is what I'm thinking here. Then what I want to do is, we're not going to introduce anything new here to our colors. I'll use some red, which was the alizarin crimson, and a touch of the orange, like this. And what we'll do is we'll make a little bit of an orangey red with a little bit of cobalt blue as well, like that. And then what I'll do is I'll pick up that paint, load it up in my brush, and then I'm just going to go right across the paper like this. Just like this, not everywhere though. I'll cover the bottom really well, right along the bottom of the tape. That area I want to get really, really well coated. And then as we go closer to the shoreline, then I just want to use a damp brush and kind of smooth out that wash that we just put in there like this. But we don't want it to be perfect, we don't want perfect lines here, just a little bit of that coating like this. And then we'll go with a little bit of the smaller brush again, which is the number 8. And we'll pick up some more of that blue and green. Maybe a little bit of orange and red. We'll make a little bit of a grayish green. And then we're just going to want to make some of those watermarks like this. So you can just remember some of those, like, again, we're pretending our brush is like the water. And we're just going to do some of those water, like, so you can go back and forth like this. You can go across like this. But these type of movements with your brush, being very carefree and doing very much the same flow of what the subject matter you're painting is, that's going to look way better than trying to, gut it out and try to do really like fine things like this. You could do a few of those. Please do those. Please do a few really fine ones like this here. That's fine too. Please do those as well. But also try to get in there a few good, nice flowing strokes like this, like that. And you pick up some darker darks down here in the bottom. So the bottom you're going to have of the water, the bottom of the water, you'll have darker bits of like that. And then as you go up closer here to the shore, you're going to have very little detail. And then eventually you won't have any detail. So closer to the shoreline, no details. Over here, you'll have more details, maybe a little bit of French ultramarine blue, like this, maybe a little bit of the red, kind of a purplish color. Get a couple of those nice darks like this. Just a few of those like that. Goes a long way. And then even still, rinse off the brush, get a little bit of water, maybe a little bit of orange on there. Just do a couple splashes across, maybe a couple splashes here and there. And that should be fine. And I would call that a completed painting. What I'll do is I'll take one more break just to let this set up a little bit for a few minutes. And this way when I peel up my tape, it won't, the water won't be like flowing down off the area that I'm lifting on my tape. I want a nice, crisp, clean border around this painting right now. So when I go to lift up my tape, which we will do in about 5 or 10 minutes, I'm just going to let this dry. Maybe I'll use the blow dryer for a few minutes, but I'll do that off camera so you won't bother hearing all the noise and all that. And when we come back, I'll have dried this a little bit with the blow dryer, maybe 2 or 3 minutes or so, or 5 minutes. And then we'll peel off the tape and we'll see how it looks, okay? All right, so we'll be right back. All right, sometimes when you're finishing up your painting, you'll see a few things and you'll say, you know what, I want to add a few more details to my painting, and that's fine. That's a good thing. So that's why, again, if we're taking breaks, I take breaks. When I just step back for a few minutes, 5 or 10 minutes. I'm just coming back now. I use the blow dryer to dry off the bottom of the painting that we just did here where we did the water section. And then I noticed, well, we had some of these pencil lines here where we had some other hills in the background here that are halfway between the bushes and the mountains in the background and some of the other trees and so forth. So what we can do is we could actually mix a little more paint, and maybe we'll get a few more bushes and hill, you know, a little bit like maybe some bushes and trees and grass and things over here in this section. So what I'll do is I'll take a little bit of that burnt umber over here. So burnt umber, sap green, French ultramarine blue, maybe a little bit of cobalt blue, maybe a little bit of cerulean blue too. So I'll make it a little cooler looking like that. And then maybe we'll just add in a little bit of some more of these hills back here. Then you can take your brush, rinse off the brush, dry off a little bit of the water, and then you can diffuse some of the, maybe some of the tops of the, and it's kind of interesting. You have a little bit more feeling of like some things going on, going up the hill and the embankment, and then further back into the painting. It gives it more three-dimensional quality, actually, if you can get those like dark, light, dark, light. If you can get those in there, that's why I'm adding this in here. I think it really does add some of that really nice three-dimensional quality to the painting. You can add some like kind of like bush shapes and things here and there. What do you think? Does it add to the painting and make it look a little bit better? That's the thing. You'll look at things like this and make a judgment for yourself. You're the artist. You'll look at it and say, oh yeah, it does. It kind of, it adds some more quality, some three-dimensional quality to it. You could also take a small brush, and these are the fine details. You just have to keep a check on them. You don't want to do too many, otherwise, you know, it doesn't look that good. So, but we'll take some more of that French ultramarine blue, a little bit of burnt umber, sap green. We'll get a dark like this. And then sometimes we can even take like and we can make another pine tree here, like this. Pick up a little bit of water, thin, make a little bit of water in that to make it a little more, thin it down a little more so we get some more paint on there. Okay, and then we have the tree like this. So now if we have a little bit of a larger tree here in the foreground, like that, and even bring it down over here, like this, that can also, it can be a nice, add a bit more three-dimensional quality to things. And then if you see anything else too that might have, sometimes something may happen once in a while on your washes that doesn't look that great. So you can just kind of add a few things here and there. But I just wanted to add a few things in there, those darks here. And this one pine tree I think here looks pretty good. Like that. Maybe we could scratch out a little bit of a tree trunk there. Like that. And again, sometimes you'll find little spots you need to touch up. But I mean, other than that, we don't want to get too, too fussy with the details. I think that's fine. All right, and we will peel off the tape and we'll kind of see how great it looks when we give it that border. It's almost like putting a mat on the painting and putting it in a frame by just peeling off the tape here and taping it off. And what's great about this too is if you tape off your paintings, even if you're just doing compositions or practicing or working along with my videos, and you just want to, I would say it's great if you can do this. Always tape your paintings, your works, your compositions, our exercises we're doing together. Tape them off like this. Give yourself a nice good wide border. And when you're done doing your exercises or the composition or the painting that we're working on, or any other paintings you might be working on too on your own, once you get done, then you peel off the tape, and it's almost like you have it framed for yourself. And then it looks so much more, crisp and good looking. And then you can save it in a folder or in a drawer or in a box, and just keep saving all your work. And having them like this really does make them look so much more finished. And I'm hoping you'll enjoy that. It's really simple. A little bit of tape you put around the border, and you're all set. All right, it's been great painting with you. We'll see you on the next video. And always remember, have fun. Don't stress. Watercolor is a journey. Enjoy the journey. We all work together here as we go. I'm learning a lot too as I go. So we're all together learning. We're taking our time, just having fun, enjoying the experience of it. And that's part of what it is about. Artwork and art and watercolor painting is about enjoying the experience and having like a good feeling about just getting lost in the artwork itself and in what we're doing. And then we can just let all the worries of the world and whatever other things we have. We all have stresses in our lives, things that are going on. Everyone has those type of things in their lives, but when we get involved with our art, it's those few hours, those 2 or 3 hours that we have for ourselves, and where our energy is in this, and we can really just kind of lose ourselves in this, and then we have more energy to come back to our issues, whatever they might be in our lives, or maybe we don't have many at all. It depends on, life and what's going on, but always remember, art is our fun thing to do, okay? So let's keep having fun. I'll see you on the next video.